Khamzat Chimaev is one of the most dominant fighters in the UFC, and he looks to be next in line for UFC middleweight champion Dricus du Plessis. But his ties to a Russian warlord could destroy his career and tarnish the UFC's reputation. Here's the full story. Before we get into the video, guys, please make sure to like, subscribe, drop a comment down below. All that good YouTube stuff really helps me out a lot. If you want access to bonus content like members-only live streams and you want to support the channel even further, become a channel member via the link in the description of this video or the join button on our channel homepage. Thank you very much. Back to the video. Khamzat Chimaev set the UFC on fire when he first broke onto the scene with 3 wins in about 2 months. The first one being against John Phillips by second-round submission, and then 10 days later, he TKO'd Reese McKee in the first round, followed by a 17-second knockout against Gerald Meerschaert in September of 2020. And then he was actually out for roughly a year because he came down with a severe case of COVID-19 that actually put his fighting career in jeopardy. He made his comeback against Li Jingliang, the Leech, at UFC 267, where he choked the Leech to sleep in 3 minutes and 16 seconds. After that, he ended up going to war in a Fight of the Year candidate at UFC 273 against Gilbert Burns. That was his final fight at 170 pounds. He was looking very scary for the welterweight division. It looked like he was possibly going to be a double or even triple champ until UFC 279 fight week came around. Khamzat Chimaev was supposed to be fighting Nate Diaz in honestly kind of a lamb to slaughter kind of moment, sending Diaz to lose to Khamzat Chimaev. But on the night before weigh-ins, Khamzat Chimaev could not make the weight. The UFC doctors stepped in. Khamzat Chimaev ended up weighing in at like 179 pounds.
178 and a half.
178 and a half, the official weight for Khamzat Chimaev.
And they completely rearranged the cards so that the main event was now Nate Diaz against Tony Ferguson, and the co-main event was Kevin Holland and Khamzat Chimaev, where Khamzat Chimaev won by Darce choke in about 2 minutes. After that, we didn't see him for another year. He came back at middleweight, where he was supposed to fight Paulo Costa. Paulo Costa got an incredibly bad staph infection that caused him to pull out of the fight. And so Kamaru Usman, former welterweight champion, moved up to middleweight on roughly 10 days notice, or about a week's notice, to fight Khamzat Chimaev, and they went to a decision, which was actually a majority decision. 2 judges had it for Chimaev and 1 judge had it as a draw. Around this time, rumors started circulating about why Khamzat Chimaev had been so inactive. He ended up being matched up with Rob Whittaker and was supposed to fight him in June of 2024. Khamzat Chimaev was sick and pulled out about a week before the fight, so unranked Ikram Aliskerov fought Rob Whittaker in the main event of UFC Saudi Arabia last June, where he was KO'd in less than a round. The Robert Whittaker fight was rebooked as the co-main event of UFC 308 Topuria versus Holloway, where Khamzat Chimaev landed an early takedown and ended up breaking some teeth of Rob Whittaker's, which caused him to tap out in the first round. And now Khamzat Chimaev looks to be next for UFC middleweight champion Dricus du Plessis. Many people speculate about travel restrictions for Khamzat Chimaev. Many people have speculated there's rumors about him having legal issues in Sweden, where he fled to, leaving Chechnya and Russia. He's also become a UAE citizen, which people speculate could help his ability to fight. But there is a dark, shadowy, sinister figure behind the scenes of Khamzat Chimaev's life. And their relationship has become more and more public in recent years. And that man that is causing travel restrictions and delays in Khamzat Chimaev's career is Russian warlord Ramzan Kadyrov. Ramzan Kadyrov is the head of the Chechen Republic. The Chechen Republic, also known as Chechnya, is a republic of Russia where Khamzat Chimaev and Ramzan Kadyrov are from. It is situated in the North Caucasus region of Eastern Europe between the Caspian and the Black Sea. The Republic forms a part of Northern Caucasian Federal District and shares land borders with Georgia to the south. Following the First Chechen War of 1994 to 1996, with Russia, Chechnya gained de facto independence. Russian federal control was restored in the Second Chechen War from 1999 to 2009. So these are the years that Khamzat Chimaev was growing up. These were his key years. Khamzat Chimaev was raised in a very war-torn region. Kadyrov frequently employs totalitarian and repressive tactics in his rule of the Chechen Republic. Over the years, he has come under criticism from international organizations for an array of human rights abuses under his government, with Human Rights Watch calling forced disappearances and torture so widespread that it constituted crimes against humanity. During his tenure, he has advocated restricting the public lives of women and led anti-gay purges in the Republic. Kadyrov has been frequently accused of involvement in kidnapping, assassination, and torture of human rights activists and their relatives within both Chechnya and other regions of Russia, as well as abroad through the political use of police and military forces. He publicly denies all allegations. Kadyrov has attempted to portray a hyper-masculine image in public, frequently posing with guns and military garb or displaying his wealth and opulence. Ramzan Kadyrov has also taken a liking to lots of UFC fighters, with his sons also being Khamzat Chimaev's cornermen. And here's just a few clips of Ramzan Kadyrov with Khamzat Chimaev. Ramzan Kadyrov is literally one of the scariest leaders in the world. He does some pretty crazy things to maintain his control, and Khamzat Chimaev grew up in this war-torn region with this guy in charge. Khamzat Chimaev, as he rose in notoriety with the UFC, also gained the attention of Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov. UFC star Khamzat Chimaev has paid allegiance to Ramzan Kadyrov multiple times. And the Chechen dictator, like I mentioned, he has a list of crimes, well-documented purges of sexual minorities, extrajudicial killings, forced disappearances, forced conscription, and appalled acts of violence to quell all forms of dissent. Over the past few years, Khamzat emerged as Kadyrov's favorite fighter, and he has lived a very comfortable life because of that. He has been gifted G-Wagons and cars, watches, money, all types of things. Houses, land. Kadyrov has given Khamzat multiple Mercedes, a luxury villa in the Chechen capital of Grozny, and helped facilitate Chimaev's marriage a few years ago. Now, while Khamzat has reaped the benefits of this relationship through financial benefits, probably the best training possible, the best treatment that you could possibly have from a leader, financial backing, gifts, all of that, family help taking care of his family and all of that. But there are many potential downsides, such as restricted travel to the US. This is what many fans say has held Khamzat out of action for multiple months, even over a year at times. Before UFC 294 in Abu Dhabi, which is where Khamzat Chimaev beat Kamaru Usman by majority decision, Chimaev's jiu-jitsu coach, Alan Nascimento, disclosed that the fighter was having difficulties getting into the country. And Chimaev actually ended up relocating to the United Arab Emirates on a 10-year visa, according to his jiu-jitsu coach, Nascimento, that he could use as like a partial citizenship to get through the country to other countries and things like that. This has damaged Khamzat Chimaev's reputation in the MMA world, along with him being partnered with some crypto scams and other things like that. Many people have gone from being very excited about the rise of Khamzat Chimaev to really turned off by his inactivity and his treatment of the fans, and also scamming his fan base alongside ties to this warlord who has allegedly committed countless human rights violations. Khamzat Chimaev isn't the only fighter that has been tied to Ramzan Kadyrov. A bunch of fighters that are signed to well-known manager through his beef with Conor, and he was Khabib's manager, Ali Abdelaziz, has actually taken Justin Gaethje, Henry Cejudo, and Kamaru Usman over to Chechnya to meet Ramzan Kadyrov. And Sean O'Malley actually revealed on his podcast that he was invited to go and didn't.
Justin Gaethje and Cejudo.
Yep, that's the one I was going to go
That was
there.
the one you were
Yep.
invited to?
Yeah.
That's interesting because they're kind of facing a little backlash.
I've
about
heard.
that.
So, because the reason we never really ended up going is because we were saying, like, who is this for?
Yeah.
And we didn't really get an answer. So I'm like, fuck that.
It's a little sketchy.
Emron, I'd listen to Emron's advice, and Emron was like, hey, I don't have a good feeling about this. Let's not move forward with that. So obviously, Henry's fucking gonna take the money. He's literally probably made $1 million in his whole career fighting. So he's probably broke. Needs to get to Russia. They went over to the Chechnya,
yeah.
and the guy is like a murderer, basically the top dog.
Yeah, I think he's
Like best friends with Putin.
Yeah.
Who's like not a good person, and that's who they went there to his kid's birthday party.
Which is crazy that these guys are going and spending time with this guy. I'm sure they're getting paid a lot of money to hang out with him. That's the only thing that I can think that justifies that if you're a US based fighter. But Khamzat in one way is kind of forced to, because if he doesn't do what this guy says, he could be in danger. His family could be in danger. So to a certain degree, I don't always hold Khamzat super liable for his relationship, because his life potentially could be in danger if he didn't go along with this relationship. Former UFC middleweight champion Sean Strickland has gone after Khamzat Chimaev multiple times in the media for his relationship with Ramzan Kadyrov. And let's take a look at what he said. It explains quite a bit of the relationship and Khamzat's career for the last 2 years, almost exactly on point from my perception.
I know, with that little, the Chechen horse Chimaev. Hey, we need to talk about this. One more thing before we get out of here. We need to talk about Mr. Chimaev. I keep hearing Chimaev this, Chimaev this, Chimaev that, but what does the history and facts say about Chimaev? And you guys are media, you should know this. Chimaev fled Chechnya with his family because, an oppressive warlord dictator that killed people indiscriminately. No hate on him. It's your country. He goes back to Chechnya. He goes back to Chechnya because somebody wants to buy him a G-Wagon. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'll be that whore. I'll do it. I'll fucking bend the knee for you, man. I like G-Wagons. And then what happens? The leash gets way too tight. And you know what? I think the U.S. government kind of looks at him like a terrorist now. Why? Because people get murdered all the time in Chechnya and they completely violate human rights. So now Chimaev's scared of shit. Oh, man, dude, I wanted to be I didn't want to go full tip. Now he fucking flees to somewhere in the sand pit. And now he's hiding out in the sand pit. And now what does he do? Chimaev, what does he do? He has a Bitcoin scam, and he scams all his fans. And let me tell you guys something. I had the same Bitcoin scam offered to me. It was like 200,000. And I was like, fuck you, dude. I'm not going to scam my fans. I don't need money that bad. But that's what Chimaev did. So, yeah, Chimaev, you can fight. You can fight. You got a beard. But let history record it as you, sir, are a whore. You fled a country. You went back and you got buddy with a dictator and you fled again. Doesn't matter how good of a fighter you are and will always be a fucking whore. That's a good one, right? Clip that. Send, post.
And now that Sean Strickland lost by decision to Dricus du Plessis just this past weekend at UFC 312, that all but leaves Khamzat Chimaev in line for the next title shot at 185 pounds. And this brings a lot of questions up, such as what does it look like for the UFC if they end up having a champion? If Khamzat Chimaev beats Dricus du Plessis, or whoever is the champion at the time that Khamzat challenges, how does the UFC handle one of their champions, one of their biggest stars, especially given that Chimaev is Muslim and that is a massive, massive fan base for the UFC, being tied to one of the most controversial leaders on planet Earth, one of the most feared, controversial, ruthless people in Ramzan Kadyrov? Does that make the UFC rethink the way they book Khamzat Chimaev? Do they not give him a title shot at all? How do they handle this? And what if Khamzat can't fight in the US? Now, I know Dana is tight with Trump. They could probably work something out to get Khamzat into the US for the next 4 years while Trump is president. But in the long term, what does this mean for Khamzat's career? I mean, what if he keeps this tie to Kadyrov and he can't get into the US to fight? Because then he's basically forced to fight in Saudi Arabia, Abu Dhabi, or like maybe Australia or China if they have events there. I'm not sure what the political relationships are between all these countries, but if he maintains this relationship, getting into the US could be a serious problem for Khamzat Chimaev, and that could be a serious problem for the UFC with booking a champion. I mean, do they strip him if he can't get into the US? They do put on plenty of foreign events where they could probably make it work, but they have to consider these type of things. Is Khamzat Chimaev maintaining a relationship with Kadyrov because he's in danger? It's certainly possible. But the truth is, regardless of what the answer to that question is, Khamzat Chimaev's UFC career has been severely damaged. He's gone from 3 wins in 50 days and looking like he was going to become a triple champ in the UFC to his star being not severely, but definitely slightly dimmed, and waves of fans that are no longer as committed to seeing Khamzat Chimaev fight or see him become champ. The bandwagon for Chimaev has died considerably over the years, in part to his inactivity, but also in part due to this relationship with Kadyrov. Do you think that Khamzat Chimaev's relationship with Kadyrov is ruining his career, or do you think that he is forced to maintain this relationship? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, because this is a really dicey issue that could potentially affect an entire division and stall a division if you have an undisputed champ that can't get into certain countries. So let me know your thoughts down below. What do you think about UFC fighters having these sketchy ties to Ali Abdelaziz, who has you guys can Google his past. Conor McGregor exposed quite a bit of it, or maybe I'll make a video about it soon. Ali is a very shady figure to be involved with the UFC. He also has taken fighters around Ramzan Kadyrov, and then you also have Ramzan Kadyrov, and I'm sure plenty of other sketchy people being closely involved with these UFC fighters. What do you guys think about this kind of like underworld of weird, dark relationships with dangerous and controversial people between the UFC with the UFC fighters? So let me know your thoughts down below. Do you think Khamzat becomes UFC middleweight champion? And if so, how does the UFC handle his relationship with Ramzan Kadyrov? Thanks for watching this video, guys. Please make sure to like, subscribe, drop a comment down below. All that good YouTube stuff really helps me out a lot. If you want access to bonus content, become a channel member through the link below this video or the join button on our channel homepage. If you're interested in some non-MMA content from me, go check out my podcast, What's Up Bro, with Wyatt and Bo, linked below this video. Go watch this suggested video, and I'll see you next time.